27, 26, 25, 24, 23, 22, 21, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
And there isn't one of us that doesn't want to be someplace else. This is what we do. Who we are.
Survive a war. You gotta become war.
Boom. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to Rambo and Frens. I am your host, Joe Rambo. This is kind of a special day for me, right? So we're not used to doing interviews the way that you're going to see one today, but I'm really excited for it, especially after the short conversation that I had pre-show. I am even more anticipating what's about to go down more than I was prior. So I think you guys are in for quite a treat today. As far as house cleaning goes, real quick, while you guys pile in here, I didn't yet get to look at my emails, but I'm going to put the reminder out there one more time for any of you guys that ordered buttons from Nicholas. Please do me a favor and make sure, if you did not already send some sort of shipping address. Look, I don't need your home address, but I do need somewhere to ship it if you're going to order buttons. P.O. box, house address, whatever it might be. Make sure to send me that address so I can make sure that we get all of these orders taken care of. Now, with that, yesterday's show was absolutely amazing. You guys supported us. We got all the way up to, the last I saw, we were 19 on the leaderboard for Rumble. I could not be more grateful. That is because of you guys and being so active, hitting the positive affirmation button on whatever platform you're on. The one specifically I'm talking about is Rumble. You guys rule. We are on quite a streak, and I would love to see the same thing happen today. So if you could do the same, hit that positive affirmation button, especially over there on Rumble, YouTube. Welcome to everybody over on Twitter and Foxhole. You guys know I love you. With that, today's show is under a bit of time restraint. Me and Chad Stewart have been trying to get together here for a couple of months, to be honest with you. And you guys know my schedule. Swing shift stinks. So the time just happened to work out today that we're going to go right up to the minute I have to run to work. So with that being said, I want to say thank you to our sponsors right here in the beginning so that we can free flow right up to the last minute. So with that being said, let's hear from Patrick Gunnels over there at Tulip Blooms.
At Tulip Blooms, we believe in more than just skincare. We believe in freedom. We believe in natural products made by Americans, for Americans, using nature's finest ingredients to help you feel your best. Each Tulip Blooms product is carefully crafted with pure organic ingredients. No chemicals, no compromises, just clean, natural skincare you can trust. We know what matters to you: freedom, family, and a healthy way of life. That's why every purchase at tulipblooms.shop supports American jobs and a brand that values your freedom. Join the movement. Support a company that believes what you believe in. Visit tulipblooms.shop today. Tulip Blooms, natural skincare for patriots. Promo code Rambo for 10% off.
His voice cracks me up every time. I want to say thank you. You guys, he was on yesterday, and you guys went out and supported Tulip Blooms to a level that I haven't seen yet. So thank you guys all very, very much for supporting that project. And let's get right into David Becker at Mid-Atlantic Business Alliance. Are you paying too much for your health insurance? Fall is the time of year when insurance companies send out their annual renewal rate increases. For many, the high cost of medical insurance is about to get even worse. David Becker and his son Jesse of Mid-Atlantic Business Alliance are here to help you get the best possible PPO insurance coverage at affordable rates. If you think the cost of groceries has exploded, you should see what the hospitals are charging these days. Without the proper PPO protection, you could be liable for tens of thousands of dollars in the event of a surgery or hospital stay. Since 1990, Mid-Atlantic Business Alliance has helped individuals and small businesses get access to nationwide PPOs with coverage both in-network and out-of-network charges in every state. Having a great nationwide network like Cigna will help keep your costs down to a minimum. If you're stuck paying for your own medical insurance, call David for a free quote at 609-577-8557 or visit www.midatlanticba.com/Rambo. Cannot wait to meet that dude at GART this weekend. 2 more days. I got 48 hours and I will be headed to South Carolina to hang out with everybody from Badlands. It's going to be awesome. And last but not least today, I always got to say thank you to this dude. He decided to support this show when we had like 3 people watching. I will always support this guy. Mike Lindell has kept the conversation as far as election integrity is concerned on the tip of everyone's tongue for 4 years, and that was not an easy feat. All the battles we went through, all the risks he took, all of his employees that stayed in the fight with him. I love supporting Mike Lindell, and if you want to support this show while you do it, please use promo code Rambo over at mypillow.com. All right. So that being said, let's get into today. I'm actually really excited about this because you guys know I'm very open on this show. I have 4 kids that now call me dad, and I've gotten my son back. And so I am, for the first time in the last 2 years, dealing with the education system. This guy has some expertise when it comes to that topic. So I cannot wait to hear from this dude. Let's hear from the boss, and we'll get right into it.
I wouldn't miss a chance to talk to my friends. These are my friends.
Chad, welcome, buddy. How you doing?
Good. Thank you. I saw those trailers of the Rambo First Blood 2 and then and the Matrix, and it's just like, wow. Oh my gosh. I remember when First Blood came out, and I was just like, oh, that was like the coolest movie. I don't know if I was like 12 or something. It was so awesome. And then number 2, kick ass, and then the Matrix. And I remember telling my friend, it's like, oh my gosh, you've got to watch this movie, right? So those were some cool flicks. So anyway.
Well, if you go back to the Rambo movies, that guy had some major PTSD. It parallels life. It parallels my life, not because I served my country in a military fashion whatsoever. I'm very open about that, but there was a lot of abuse and addiction and things. So
Sure.
the PTSD part I related to, and it was also the idea that like what happens when the guy that just wanted to be left alone gets involved. Right. So the Rambo thing seems gimmicky, but there's a method to my madness, right?
That's a great thread. And it's interesting too, because the movie was based on a book, First Blood. And it did go a lot darker and deeper. And even with the, thank goodness they didn't, but at the end he was supposed to die, in the shootout, and he was going to be killed. And they went through every actor you can imagine. No one was interested in it. Even Dustin Hoffman, yikes. And finally got Stallone. And I think when it was finally done, it was around like 2 hours plus, and it was before they really got into the editing. And he was willing to buy it back because he thought it was going to ruin his career and stuff. So I always think the inside story is interesting, but hence it really was. It was supposed to be a lot darker, if you will. Although First Blood is pretty dark, you know what I mean. It's pretty heavy, but it was along those lines of exactly what you were saying. You know what I mean. It's just a guy that was just going through, like, he just lost his last friend. If you remember the beginning of the movie, it's like it was his last hope, and he's been hiking out to, I think, Oregon, and finds out that his friend died, of cancer a couple months before, a year before or something. Now he's got nothing, no one, and some, smart ass sheriff is telling him he's got to walk another 20 miles to get something to eat, and it's like, whoo. So.
Yeah. So I want to ask you a question before we get into everything, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Actually, I really kind of want to tell you just kind of like what we're dealing with here locally and get your take on it. So
Sure.
When I moved here was 2 years ago. I spent a decade fighting to get my son back due to those addiction issues I was telling you about. For that full decade, I was well beyond the part where I lost my son. I was plenty healthy to take care of this boy. However, God did not choose to put him back into my life until 2 years ago, just over 2 years now. So I spent 10 years not being involved in the school system. And like I said, when I moved here, this area in South Central Pennsylvania went from a school board that was all blue and had transgender bathrooms and books that some of the
Filthy.
worst ones.
Filthy. Yeah.
Yeah. And without my help, my platform had already grown by the time this was going on. I had a pretty good voice in the movement, and I was getting ready to offer my help. And before I had to, the locals, without me, flipped the whole school board from blue to red.
Oh,
And it gave me tons and tons and tons of hope, Chad.
wow.
So, but they're still dealing with old issues,
Sure.
right? So there's still a transgender bathroom outside of the gymnasium. So what they did was they took a boys' room and a girls' room and made them both transgender. And this is a middle school I'm talking about. So of course issues come with that. So now the kids are taking advantage of the fact that they can both go into a restroom, hookups are happening, whatever the heck. You know, I remember what we did in the bathroom, smoking cigarettes and stuff back in the 80s and 90s. Like now imagine if we could have went in there with the girls.
Sure.
And one of the solutions, Mr. Stewart, that happened here recently was kind of mind-blowing. And I cannot wait to go to a school board meeting. It's been national news. Those restrooms had such issues that they had to figure out how to handle it. And the solution doesn't make sense to me yet. And it's why I want to go to the meeting and ask. But they decided to put windows in those bathrooms so that the whole hallway can look teachers, kids, everyone. There's a 3x3 window that can now see the stalls, the urinals, and the sinks on the one that used to be a boys' room, and the vice versa on the one that used to be a girls' room. It's like we've compounded this problem with this woke ideology that's just baffling. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Oof. Yeah. I mean, we'll get into other topics. This stuff really fires me up. So I want to try to be cool about it. But a couple things, and something you threaded it in your show yesterday. You know, there's this sense that this is sort of the majority. This is what's going on. This is what people want. Has absolutely nothing to do with it. It's very demonic. It's satanic. It's vile. It's disgusting. It's a word that doesn't exist, but the usual suspects behind the scenes made this word up, and now they're confusing children. Those that are involved with it, they will be held accountable. I've said this for the last 6 months, if not longer, that there's a reckoning coming from every single person that's been involved in this filthy, vile movement, including some of the pornography and literature that they're bringing into the schools and teaching, and the teachers that are wholeheartedly teaching it. And no one will escape this. And I was just, it's funny because last Wednesday we had a red wave, of course, that hit the entire United States, and this is just the beginning. And all 50 states were red, just for those that are on that know and are awake. California has been red for decades. A lot of this corruption hopefully will finally come out. And it was interesting too. The second that I saw Vermont, which is, you know, it tends to be quote unquote liberal, and it went blue, and I'm like, nope, the fix is in once again, because Vermont was red, and that's already been addressed, because you're seeing some Republican governors winning the state, but the demonic VP winning that presidency in that particular state and stuff. We are a very awake nation right now. We are a very united nation. 80 to 85% of the entire nation voted for Trump, voted for Republican, voted for the family, voted for a safe border, and a lot of those other types of, if you will, God-centric things. So it's not a split, and they always do that. It's that 49 to 51%. All the statistics are bunk. They're false. They're fabricated. In fact, I'd like to use the same system, and I've got some paper and some pens, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start writing some checks for like $100,000. I'm going to go to the bank with this piece of paper that I wrote with a pen and go cash that. That's how useful those statistics are. And unfortunately, a lot of the alternatives are pushing them and promoting them. And I'll come back full circle. I just wanted to sort of lay that out, because I wanted to build on what you were saying yesterday, that really, especially from 2020, you have millions and millions and millions of Americans that for the first time in history are savvy, are awake, not fully, and that takes a long time. And they're questioning things, and they're not getting this flu shot that comes around every year. And they're questioning their doctors now. And I mean, it's just, and you guys covered probably all of this on your show and stuff. And all of these are rabbit holes that I don't necessarily want to go down, but I've been researching and studying this thing for 12 years. But I think it's, to come back to your question, it's interesting because it does compound itself. It's a disgusting, vile sin. Let's call it what it is. And so what happens to it, instead of saying, you know what, this is ridiculous, let's get this stupid bathroom out of there that has nothing to do with anything. What they do is they just compound it. And so they kind of kick the can, or they do this, or they add a window. Are you out of your freaking mind? And whoever's involved in that, I'm saying this, the principal, the board, whoever's supported this, your time is coming. It's that simple. And I really mean that. And there's a reckoning coming. We can dig into education. It's been hijacked for over 50, if not 200 years, but you're seeing that coming around. I've said this for the last 2 years, that we are in an educational reformation, much like Martin Luther 500 years ago. We're in a homeschool revolution right now. We've gone from 5 million to anywhere from 10 to 15 million just in the United States. The homeschool movement is the closest educational natural movement for children and education, and blending that then that's out there. They're the most well-rounded, well-educated kids that I've ever met in my life. And so I'll stop there because I don't want to keep going on, but I just wanted to lay a little bit of groundwork, and we can pull on any of those threads. But it's like, yeah, go ahead.
I have a question for you on the homeschooling. So there's, as far as I can tell, at least through my journey of prayer and meditation, there's 2 avenues of thought: homeschooling and pulling your kids out of the indoctrination camps seems more than logical, and I respect every parent that's able and capable of doing it. There's another mindset that we've kind of come. Full disclosure: Kim is a teacher. She waited until she was in her 40s to go get her degree so that she could go teach kids. And Kim's much more aligned with the way I believe than anyone she works with, obviously. So we talked yesterday, if you saw this part, that I believe that there's a bunch of very young kids going into college, being indoctrinated, turning around and indoctrinating our youth. Well, Kim had a whole lifetime, half a lifetime of learning and parenting and doing daycare before she decided to get her degree to go teach. So now, not only is she teaching, but she's teaching in a very, well, she's just outside of Baltimore County. So it's kind of the hood, right?
Yeah.
So, there's many kids in there that don't speak English. There's many with learning disabilities, and now they have all of these rules and regulations where they're just pushing children through. So No Child Left Behind sounds like a really cool liberal idea, except for that you're just pushing kids through that don't know anything.
Sure.
So where was I going with this question? I don't know exactly how it is that we, okay. So my point was, how do we correct that system? Because many parents can't just pull their kids out.
Sure.
They can't just, so we've gone by, Kim wanted to be a teacher. We have 5 kids in this house. You have to make a living. People have to eat and have a roof over their heads. You want to be a successful adult, and you want your kids to do better than you, right? All natural things. How is it that we fight the establishment rather than just pull out of it? You see what I'm saying?
No, I do. And it's not to say it's never all or nothing. I don't like to talk in necessary absolutes. Not to say that every teacher out there is terrible. Of course not. Most teachers are great. I mean, number one, it's a calling. Number two, you're very unappreciated, to say the very least. Number 3, you're way underpaid. I think it's in Finland that they're, and don't quote me on it, but the teachers are paid on the level of lawyers and doctors. You're damn right they should be. The good ones. Are you kidding me? I'm entrusting my kids and my future education and the future education of my kids, to 40 hours a week. It's just like they should be paid extremely well and not have to take a second job or pull out money so they can get coloring crayons and paper for their room and stuff. So the problem is the entire system was built to fail. And it's not to say that every school out there is failing. There's some great middle schools. It depends on the area. It depends, there's some great privates. There's some great Christian schools. There's some great public schools. There's some great teachers out there. But the system has been hijacked for years, for decades, if not longer. It's built on an industrial model. It was built to serve the industrial revolution, you know what I mean, and factories, and it's built on that factory model. I mean, think about it. You're in the same room all day. It's 40 hours a week. You have bells and whistles just like you would at a factory, and your only qualification in being in a classroom is that you're 11, 12, or 13 years old. And then it's just, and then over the years, especially the last couple of decades, and especially the last 5 years, I mean, the stuff that's pouring in there now is just filthy, disgusting, vile. It has nothing to do with education. 1980, we were #1 in the world. We're now at number 24. It's utterly ridiculous. In fact, the billions of dollars that's spent, or you could say laundered through the entire system. But I think we're seeing the beginning of the end of this, I'd call it Nazi system, the socialistic system. And yes, it's going to kick around for another 5, 7, 10 years. But a lot of things are happening. A lot of it is depends on the board and what they're issuing and bringing in. Most of that was hijacked. I think too in 2020, we never realized, not even for myself, how important, if you will, a governor is, how important the mayor is, how important these school boards are. You don't really think about it. Everyone's out trying to earn a living. And it's becoming harder and harder. And you got, two family members, father and a mother working, and you're not really thinking about it. But I think since 2020, and I said this too, I'll just backtrack real quick. And we could talk a little bit about Britfield too, and what we're trying to do to counter it. Yeah. But I launched Britfield and Lost Crown book 1 in August 2019. So I started a nationwide tour. And I drove 9,000 miles. I visited 23 states. I presented to over 200 schools and presented in front of more than 40 to 50,000 students. And I was doing it for a lot of reasons. One was I was doing it to launch the book, launch the series, launch myself, grassroots network. But I was doing it more because I was curious what was going on out there, right? We talk the talk, you get research, you listen to statistics. I wanted boots on the ground. I wanted to visit these states, these towns, these cities. I wanted to talk to the teachers, the librarians, and I did. Hundreds, if not thousands of kids, finding out, what are you reading? What influences you? Do you like the ebook? Do you read it all? Who are your favorite authors? I mean, just all types of incredible information if you can. And it was in March 2020 that we had this quote unquote pandemic or plandemic. And I was driving back. I was in Memphis, Tennessee, and just finished 4 schools back to back. I was totally on a roll. I was excited. I was finally in the heart of America. I couldn't wait to get to sort of that heartland of America. And I had to turn around, drive all the way back to San Diego, which I think was like about a 2,000-mile drive. And as I was driving back, I was thinking of 3 things. And this is answering your question. One is I'm saying when this whole facade is over with, it'll be very interesting to see how many parents will send their kids back to school. And it's basing it on 3 things. Number 1, for the first time in their life, parents would be realizing what their children were learning and being taught in school as young as 4, 5, 6 years old, and horrified by what they were learning or being taught or exposed to. Number 2, how far they were behind in certain subjects that they shouldn't be, especially in reading. And number 3, that a child could sit down with their entire workload for the day and be finished in 2 to 3 hours at 12 years old and have the rest of the day to do something creative, play, build a fort, paint something, play a musical instrument, whatever it is. And that's when I started seeing statistics that were coming out 12 months later that said anywhere from 20 to 30% of parents aren't sending their kids back to traditional schools and stuff. So we've been, if you will, into this at the very beginning of it. But to answer your question, it's I don't have all the answers for it. My expertise isn't in how to fix the entire educational system, if that makes sense. And some things are happening. I think Trump just came out yesterday or the other day with, and I have these if you don't have them, 10 points on how to make better schools and how to improve the school system. But I think what you're seeing is also a hybrid model. It's not to say that all homeschooling is great. And again, too, you have to understand what homeschooling is. It's not about one child staying home in their house all day long with one parent there to teach them. That's not what homeschooling is. There's hybrid models. There's multiple levels. You can drop your son or daughter off at a homeschool group, of 10 or 15, 20 other kids. There's partnerships with charter schools. There's all types of different things, if that makes sense. Or if you wanted to, you get a group of, 5 like-minded parents, and one of you takes one day off a week, from work, and you teach a subject, and then that person teaches a subject, and how much fun would that be? It's the idea that you're departing your 5-year-old daughter or son, for 40 hours, every week for years is utterly really ridiculous. And that sort of, mirroring, and being with them and teaching them and letting them watch you and learn from them and spend more time with them is really incredible. But there's a lot of things we can talk about any of these that parents can do now. And you're right, not all parents can pull their kids out of it and do something like that, or afford a private school. Although I will say this, your child's education is the single most important thing in their life. And not to necessarily state the obvious, but it's not just about them getting through elementary or high school and figuring out what they want to do. Don't waste that kind of time. I mean, you want them as well-educated, well-rounded as possible. And that doesn't cost a lot of money. It just takes some time, some focus. You should be taking your kids to the library. You should be taking them to the museums. And we could talk about any of this stuff. There's so many different things you can do that cost next to nothing or is free, but just spend time with them. Do something fun every month. Maybe this month is a certain theme, and you guys go to the library, you watch documentaries, you watch a film, or you're going to write a book together on Saturdays for 2 hours. Or just 100 things to do with them, where the kids are starting to think for themselves. You're asking them questions, they're asking you questions, you're getting some debate, they're thinking about critical thinking, they're thinking about communication, collaboration, the 4 C's, and creativity. So I'll stop there because I don't want to ramble on too much. But
well, I got 19 ideas in my head after hearing you say that. There's something to be said about the social cues, at least in my experience growing up. Yeah. Now, there's a risk and reward factor when you decide to have your kids do homeschooling. I love the idea that you just presented about group homeschooling or some sort of social way to do it, where parents that are like-minded get together, because some of the kids that were homeschooled that we grew up with, they just didn't have the social cues that the rest did, because they interacted with other students all day long. And again, that could be a bad thing because of these what I truly believe are indoctrination camps at this point.
They are.
Did you have any experience in your tour of going into more urban areas?
I went everywhere. I went to some of the hardest Title I schools in Dallas or LA, Los Angeles. I went to some small little private Christian schools in Missoula, Montana, to massive high schools with 400 students in the auditorium, 4th through 8th, to some of the top prep schools in the nation. So I had an absolute hybrid model, public, private, Christian, Catholic. I even went to a Muslim school in Dallas, Texas, of 200 children. It was very interesting. And at first they're like, hey, this school, like it's one of the top schools in that particular field. And they're like, do you want to go? And at first I was like, no, I don't want to go. And then I was thinking, why wouldn't I want to go? Like, I love kids. Kids are awesome. You know what I mean? And kids are kids. That's what you have to understand. Kids are kids. And so it was very interesting. You had 100 girls all dressed in gray on one side and 100 boys all dressed in gray on the other side. But once things started going, the hands were going up, the questions, the laughing, it was just fantastic. And I'll tell you this one thing, with all my tours and all the schools, I never had one single problem from any of the students or from any auditorium. I didn't, what did you find? Were like kids from the top private schools smarter and asked better questions? Absolutely not. Ages 10 to 12 kids are like little geniuses. They're amazing. And some of the best questions I got were from 4th graders. So no, but I will say this too, just to come back to the homeschool. I'll never forget this, and I've said this on other shows. I was in Carson, Nevada. I was out in Nevada, like back-to-back schools again, and I went to Homeschool Farm, and that was actually my first experience. And I'm like, well, this will be interesting. And I pulled up, to the gate and stuff. It was nice little farm and stuff with some buildings. And the first thing I saw as I was coming through the gate, you coded in. And was I think it was like 7 or 8 boys playing basketball. It was their break, and the ages went from 11 to 17. And I'm like, when's the last time you've seen that kind of age range of boys playing basketball together at recess? Answer: never. It's all the 12-year-olds, it's all the 13 years old, it's all the 14 years old, and in that immediacy, in that moment, what I captured from that was the younger kids had someone to esteem up to, the older boys. that had a leadership, and the older boys had a leadership role for the younger ones, looking out for them and teaching them and helping them. And they were all playing together in a harmonic way, if you will. And it was amazing. And I just got that from like 30 seconds to 60 seconds. But I'm like, wow, I get it. Like, that's dynamic. And then I parked the car, and this little 12-year-old girl, she had like this little jacket on, her hair pulled back, very professional. She comes out and she goes, "Are you Mr. Stewart?" And I said, "Yes." And she took out her hand and shook my hand very firmly. And she goes, "Thank you so much for coming to our homeschool group. We're looking forward to hearing your presentation." And I thought, wow, that's like, when's the last time you seen a 12-year-old do that? You know what I mean? I'm like, that's a future senator right there. That's a future president or CEO of a company. That was my impression of it. And I got in there, and it's like, and all the kids were there when I was doing the presentation. I mean, there's maybe 20, 25. From all the different age ranges, and it was just fascinating. And they were asking different questions, and there was no one smart, no question that was better than the other. It was just so interesting how they were grouped together. And how are you going to learn how to get on with others when the only qualification, again, in your schooling is 12 years old to 13 to 14 and onward, versus being with older and younger people and having a leadership role or a mentorship role and being mentored. So.
I'm gonna give you a compliment right here. So I was talking to Absolute 1776 right before the show. Paul, I don't know if you know him by Paul, but he's interviewed a few times, and he told me, he said, that dude is awesome. He's amazingly red pilled. You guys are gonna have a great time. He was absolutely right, but I'm gonna add something to it. I'm completely impressed with your character as well. It's really cool to meet people like this that are on the same path and fighting in their own way. With that being said, I'd love to get into your project. Can I brag on you first for just a second?
brag on me. No, please don't.
Well, I pulled a couple things from what I believe is your YouTube. Is that your YouTube? Do you have a YouTube channel that has your?
We might have a long time ago, but I've done over almost 400 interviews, so you might have pulled something out there. Yeah.
Do you recognize this?
Oh, okay. Boy, this goes way back. Yeah.
I thought it was cool. Oh, your face has nostalgia written all over it. That's cool.
Yeah, it's taking me back. This is kind of like from the 2019, 2020. Yeah, we've since won almost over 40 national, international awards. We won gold medal, first place, Mom's Choice. First place, gold medal, Parents' Choice.
So I also have what looks like it was the trailer for the book. The first.
Oh, this is cool. One. You can play this. Yeah.
Okay.
This is awesome. This is fun.
Yeah. I will say, between that trailer and watching your interviews prior to coming on here, I already know what at least one of our kids is getting for Christmas.
I love it. That's cool. Yeah, it's boy, it goes way back. Do you mind just a couple minutes, kind of a quick overview?
Please do.
Yeah, yeah, because this will be fun. This will set the pace. It's interesting too, because normally I always start with this, and we're coming in now, and I like that. I like the casual conversation that we had. Although I have to always remind myself to keep focused, because I mean, we were talking earlier off screen, but it's just like, I mean, there's so many threads and so many places to pull on or to go down, and I do want to try to stay focused. And I think for all of us, it's really important to stay focused. We all have a certain calling, right? And we're all born creative. Whether you feel creative or not, you're born creative. You're born with amazing talent and gifts, even though you don't feel that you've reached that, or you got diverted, but you got to stay focused on that, focused on your calling. But I'm originally from Newport Beach, California. I was back east, Wellesley, Massachusetts for 16 years. And I did my undergraduate in British literature, European history. It's actually pre-law. Thank goodness I did not go down that route. And then went on to postgraduate and then graduate school. And then I was actually an investment banker for quite a few years, and worked for 3 Fortune 100 companies. But for me, it wasn't a fit. You know what I mean? I came from a very creative background, and there's some things that I really wanted to do. And if I stuck within that industry, I'd worked my X amount of hours. You could do extremely well, as one could imagine. But I'm like, what am I really doing? I'm not really building anything. I'm not making anything. I'm not creating anything. And so it was literally over 12 years now that I was sent down to this boring seminar, Providence, Rhode Island. I think it was insurance, and it was a weekend. I think it was Friday, Saturday, and we had to go, of course. And I was trying really hard, to pay attention and be a good student. And I sat up in the front, I was taking notes. And I started to drift, and I started to doodle. And I doodled a circle, 3 lines, a basket, a boy and a girl, and I wrote the boy and the balloon. And that idea, that doodle, resonated with me. And this whole story for what eventually would become book 1, Britfield and Lost Crown, came to life. And I thought, it takes place in England, present day. And I think that's really important. We can talk about that. Starts up in Yorkshire, Northern England, at this horrible orphanage called Weatherly Orphanage. It's about Tom, 12-year-old. He's been an orphan his whole life. He's been at Weatherly for 6 years, and this is the year he's going to escape. But he's not going anywhere without his best friend, Sarah. And somewhere along the lines, they commandeer a hot air balloon and escape from Yorkshire, and then they go to Oxford, Windsor, London, and finally down to Canterbury. But they're relentlessly chased by the illustrious Detective Gowerstone, who's renowned for capturing orphans. And so I sat down, and in that weekend I outlined it just on one piece of paper, and then I spent 4 years and 2,500 hours to create book 1, Britfield and Lost Crown. Wow. 384 pages. And then from concept and doodle and idea to launching it took me over 10 years. 10 years of hard work, of planning, of focus, of raising capital, building the team, building the business plan. And at some point, I saw this as more than a book. It was a movement. It was a movement in literature, literacy, family values, creativity, film, and media. And it was really to raise the bar in all those areas. Because frankly, let's be honest, films today, television today, books today, have just been going down this path, if you will. Yeah. And a lot of it kicked off too with the Harry Potter. And I know we have a lot of fans out there, but frankly, having your kids inundated with witchcraft, black magic, occultism is probably not a very good thing for their mind and for their hearts. And those books aren't really good to have even in the house. And there's something very tangible about it. And it is interesting too, because witchcraft is now the fastest growing religion in the world. Go figure. And what that really was is that was a huge undertaking and a huge enterprise. That was no little woman scratching together this story. It's actually based on a true person by the name of Potter. And it really was a multi-billion-dollar undertaking. And if you look at it too, as a film, as a marketing plan, because that's really what movies are. They're a major, $100 million marketing. That was about $1 billion that was put in to market the Harry Potter series. It sold over 600 million books, and it's a $34 billion franchise. And so we wanted to try to create something to counter that, instead of sitting here complaining like a lot of people do, right? Whine, complain, this and that, do something about it. You know what I mean? Plant a seed somewhere, take some action, do something about it. I know a lot of mothers are doing that with the school boards, challenging them, running for office. I think what we just saw this year, just this month, is you saw more sort of typical people from average lives, patriots, God-fearing patriots, Americans that were running for office, had no political ambitions prior to this, but they were willing to step up because they knew something had to happen and something had to change. And it's been amazing. So that red wave is much more than just the presidency. It is across the nation. but I digress. But anyway, and so since then, we launched in August 2019. It's become one of the most awarded books in children's fiction. It's one of the most top best-selling books of all time within the same time frame. We will actually outsell Harry Potter in the next 8 to 10 years. That's our trajectory right now. And it's going to be a 7-book series. We launched book 2, Britfield and the Rise of the Lion, in July of 2021. Takes place in France. Tom and Sarah now 13 years old, and that's 474 pages. We launched book 3, Britfield and the Return of the Prince, which takes place in Italy, and that is 575 pages. And we're just getting ready to launch book 4. It's actually the only paperback version I have right now, Britfield and the Eastern Empire. And we're launching that in January of 2021. Book 5 will take place in Asia. Book 6 will take place in South America. And then book 7 will take place in the United States. So it's this worldwide series, if you will, that's covering multiple countries. It takes Tom and Sarah, the main characters, from age 12 to all the way up to 18 by the time they come back to America. And I'll start on book 5 next year. But I think what makes these books very dynamic and very real, and you'll appreciate this because this is really threading into your program, is number one, they take place in current time, in real time. Whereas today the market's saturated with what? Post-apocalyptic, futuristic, anything but reality, right? And these books that are out there are designed to do 3 things for this generation of children. Number one, disconnect them from reality. Number 2, make them feel less than they are. It's very clever, isn't it? From the enemy. Yep. But it's like, if I had magical powers, well, you don't. If I could fly, well, you can't. If I was a superhero, well, you're not. Although I think all children are amazing, and I think all children are superheroes, and they are all born with gifts, and they're all born creative. And that is what we're trying to do with the Britfield series, is to inspire that creativity with authentic, real books. And so book 1 takes place in England, real time, right now, currently, if you will. We incorporate geography, history, art, architecture, and culture. We hit the 4 C's: creativity, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration. And they're based on family, friendship, loyalty, courage, hope, and faith. And all of that is in every single book. And these are global now. As of July, we've gone global with the series. We've launched in England through a distributor in June of this year, which is exciting. So that's rolling out across there. England is our beachhead for Europe. All 3 books have been translated into Polish. So Poland is our beachhead for Eastern Europe. We're about to lock in India, South Korea, Japan, and 18 other countries. And then we'll be shifting. This is actually the most recent version, as of a week ago, of the final Britfield and Lost Crown movie script that'll come in at 2 hours and 10 minutes. And we're headed into pre-production and hopefully filming next year in England. So that's kind of a quick overview. But I think the thing is this is my contribution. You know, I could sit there and criticize the type of content that's out there. I could do something better, if you will, or at least give an alternative for parents. And I cannot tell you how many emails and letters we get from parents saying, thank you, thank you for writing something that I can buy for my kids or grandparents, thank you, like something I can trust and that they can read, and it's edifying and it's good and it's inspiring and it's encouraging and it's real. And especially in book 2 is when we start to thread in a lot of the things that are happening right now in the world. And I remember when book 2, Britfield and the Rise of the Lion, came out, people were getting back to me saying, what are you, prophetic? Because the stuff I was talking about, transhumanism and quantum mechanics and D-wave computers and all kinds of stuff. I just do my research, just like you, right? I mean, I've been doing my research for over 12 years. And so I'm threading in these topics, and they're not heavy. And it's not, these aren't books to be teaching this stuff, if you will, but because these books are authentic and real and taking place in current time, these issues are relevant. And even in book 4, we deal with quantum computers, quantum mechanics, quantum encryption, the dangers of AI, and how this group called the Committee, based on the Committee of 300, and they're the enemy, if you will, of the Britfields that you'll find in the series. They're trying to manipulate the entire stock market, crash it, wipe out trillions of dollars in wealth, buy it back pennies on the dollar, and then introduce a one world global currency, digital currency. And you saw something like that, a test of it happened about, I think it was 8 or 10 weeks ago in Japan, and yet they recovered and stuff. And so these are the topics that we talk about. And a lot of kids, even 12 to 13, are picking up on it. Some they're not, but the seeds are planted. And so, these books have become more than just great entertainment and great education, because kids are learning that, most kids don't even know where like Colorado or North Dakota is, right? in today's standards. Unfortunately, geography is one of the lowest scoring in the school system. Now they have maps, they're being taught about other worlds, history, culture. I'm making history interesting. I'm making history fun. And so anyway, I'll stop there.
You know what you've made me think of? There's so many points that you have covered in what we as a movement have tried to stand for or promote throughout this. Donald Trump has always told his children and everyone, if you go back and watch it, that's kind of my forte. I've seen what I would like to believe I've seen every word Donald Trump has ever said publicly.
Wow.
Right. And he tells everyone to think big, right? Nothing ever comes easy. You got to work hard for it. Right. And then we have people like General Flynn, who told us about local action equals national impact. I love that your main purpose is out here trying to mold in a positive way the minds of our children. You have literally encapsulated everything that we try to promote as a movement. So get up and do something about it rather than just sit and complain about it. You're actually working hard towards what is everyone's goal in this movement, which is to save our children.
Yes.
Right. And you're literally taking the action and thinking bigger and going outside the box. It's inspiring for what I would like to think your books are inspiring for children. What you're doing should be inspiring for adults.
It is. Our youngest reader's 7, our oldest reader's 93. 55% of our reading audience globally are adults, believe it or not. And I always reference this, but there's like a woman in her 50s from the Netherlands, and she'll buy books on our website when they come out, and we'll ship them, and they're like $50 for a paperback to ship to the Netherlands. And she's like, I love your series. I've read nothing like it. And she goes, I can't wait till you guys are here. And that's the type of feedback. I mean, we ship to New Zealand, to Australia, to Brazil, to South Africa, to you name it. And little by little, and again, too, everything that I've talked about and encapsulated in what we've, if you will, accomplished has been tremendous hard work. You're looking at tens of thousands of hours. You're looking at, frankly, millions of dollars. You're looking at a hardship that is almost inexplainable, and moments of sorrow and frustration. But I burned my bridge a long time ago, and I'm in. You know what I mean? If you put your hand to the plow, don't look back, and that's where I am. And we're focused. I say this to your audience too. You don't need anyone's permission to go do something. Do you know what I mean? You want to go write something, go write something. If you want to go, get back to music, get back to music. Doesn't mean you quit your job tomorrow. And look, anything of value is going to take time and hard work. Everything that you're seeing in mainstream and television, newspaper, oh my gosh, the overnight success, there are no overnight successes. Every overnight success takes between 1 to 2 decades. That's a fact. I've done my research. I've read all the biographies of all the great giants. Most of them are fake. Most of them are actors. They're not billionaires. They didn't build any of this stuff. I can think of many people coming to mind right now, but anything of value takes a lot of hard work and time. And there is a lot of truth to the difference between a hobby and a profession is anywhere from 8 to 10,000 solid hours, not just hours of just showing up, but solid hours of practicing or working at your craft. It's brutal. Most authors don't make it until their 4th book, and that equals about 8 to 10,000 hours. If they make it that way, and if they're writing good content. So, it's just, I say all this to encourage you, but it's like, do it because you want to do it because you love to do it because it's your calling, do it because when you're doing what you've been gifted to do, there's perfect harmony in the world. Isn't that the truth? Right. And it's like, you're like, oh my gosh, 3 hours just went by. Right. That's how it is sometimes when I'm writing. I'm like, oh my gosh, I started at 7, it's 12. You know what I mean? So it's just like, because you're in your zone. And you're doing what you were born to do. You're working on your craft. I'm always working on my craft. Book 4 was actually the hardest book I wrote, but probably the fastest book I wrote. But man, this last book, this 4th book, it literally took it out of me. It was brutal. I was working on it 6 to 8 hours a day, every single day. Can you imagine writing and editing and editing and editing? Oh my gosh! I just spent 9 solid days going through a final script. And it's only 147 pages, and a script's very different. And but 9 solid days, just like printing it out, going through it, reading it, fixing it, printing out 3 pages, doing it again, doing it again, doing it again. This is the type of stuff that I do, that we do, at this level of, if you will, expertise or professionalism, and it's hard. And so anyway, I'll stop.
Well, I think what you're doing, I'm going to give you a micro example compared to what you just did, but hopefully encourage you the way you're encouraging me. There are patriots around the world, without question. And I think that some of my social media accounts prove that.
Mm.
We just sent buttons out to Australia.
love it.
The buttons that my boy was making, we just shipped buttons to Australia yesterday. When I make posts on social media, like my Twitter account is the one that's I've really focused on. At nighttime, in the middle of the night, they get translated into Japanese, Russian, all types of language. I have to figure out what the language even is sometimes. I had to hit translate just to see. But I mean, there might be 30, 40 people in Japan that are translating my posts every night and then amplifying them
That
in
is so
Japan.
cool.
It blows my mind, right? And this is literally just Twitter posts or X posts, whatever. It blows my mind that there's that many people, that somebody in Australia would want my boy's buttons. It's mind blowing. So for you to go out there and make this thing, your purpose, global like that, look, we get stuck in this idea that make America great again, and I believe in it. I
Sure.
believe 100% in it. And we want to be like anti New World Order, globalist central banking
Sure.
system cabal, but we're all human, right? So there's this weird parallel where once we break free from the system, we're still all human beings, and there are patriots around the world. There's no question in
Yeah.
my mind.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I love what you're doing.
No, I love that, and you're right, and for us, yeah, it is a global movement, and for us, it's always our beachhead has always been the schools, the elementary, middle schools from day one. It wasn't retail, it wasn't Barnes and Noble, it wasn't all of that. Yes, we'll get there, and we're getting there right now. And like I said, we just launched, so you're like, oh, I've never heard of it, or you're not in Barnes and Noble. It's like, trust me, we'll be there. We're getting there. We're slow, but we're solid, and we're just been building a huge foundation. And there's not a lot you can do in 2019 with the first book. You know, as you're selling it and people reading it, then they have nowhere else to go and they go on to the next thing. You know what I mean? So it's not until you get to your trilogy. And remember this too. We launched in August 2019. What happened in March 2020? A global shutdown, the likes this world's never seen. That's never happened in human history. We've had world wars, but it hasn't shut down the entire economic system worldwide. And that happened for really over 2 years. And then the damage that was done, and that's a whole topic that we don't need to get into. But I'm saying we were just launching our series. I was just rolling. I mean, like, this whole school tour is fantastic. We sold over 20,000 books just through the school tour. To put that into perspective, 97 out of 100 books professionally published fail to make a profit. Most published books will sell anywhere from 200 to 300 copies in their lifetime. And if a book sells anywhere between 2,000 to 3,000 copies, it's considered doing well. A bestseller is anywhere from 8,000 to 10,000. We did 20,000 books just on the school tour alone.
Wow.
And I had to stop and turn. I'm like, what? You know, I was all excited. I was going to head up to Nashville, and I was finally going to get to Kentucky, like one of the only states I've never visited. I'm like, yes, Kentucky. And I had to turn around, drive all the way back and stuff. So, but again, you know, what doesn't break you makes you. And we turned it around, and we started doing virtual author visits. And we did a couple of years ago, we did our first one in Australia. They were 16 and a half hours ahead of us. But I know what you're saying, because it's like, I mean, I love America. America's always been our beachhead. It's our pilot program. People get so sort of, if you will, locked in here. And it's just like, there is a whole nother world out there to see, to visit, to learn from. And I got news for you. People are people. You know, don't get caught up in the politics of countries or certain ideologies. You know, most people just want to, you know, find someone nice, marry, have kids, you know, take a vacation, work. You know what I mean? That's the typical person. That's humanity. And they're awake. And this movement, this truth movement, it is global. And you're looking at hundreds of millions of people, especially since 2020.
I want to ask you this. So you don't even have to comment on this first part if you don't want to. I guess the question would be, before I elaborate, do you feel like God moved you at the exact right time in history?
Yes.
Because, well, this is why I ask. I believe that we've been infiltrated globally.
Sure.
By the you know, the list I just ran off a minute ago.
Yeah. Usual suspects.
Yeah. And I believe that part of that infiltration was, you know, equivalent to the frog in a boiling water. If you turn it up slow, they'll never know.
Yep.
I do believe that there was a intelligence level to this where they turned it up really fast.
Yes.
Push it into everyone's faces.
Yeah.
So
It
that
got
we
real
would,
crazy, didn't it, over the last 18 months?
right.
24? I mean, like you're like, what the drag queens at libraries,
Right.
like with not even wearing anything underneath their dress. I mean, like, are you out of your freaking
Right.
mind? I mean, like this is like the land of Oz. Yeah.
Well, okay, I'll give you a good example, Chad.
Yeah.
While we're just BSing, because I want to get into the when the movie comes out and that stuff.
Sure,
But
sure.
but listen to this example. You just brought one up. I found out that, well, do you remember Bud Light, right? And
Oh,
they put the Hishi in a tub that was drinking
it,
Bud Light. It was
yeah,
the worst possible, like that. It couldn't be further from their target audience, right? And then I found out that the CEO of Anheuser-Busch was ex-CIA.
oh yeah.
And that set me off in an even more emotional tangent where I'm thinking three-letter agencies are infiltrating, which they are, right? That
Oh,
was a
completely.
topic that needed to be talked about.
They were
However,
designed for that. Let me just jump in for a sec because there's this quote that I've been dying to say. And we're talking about it earlier offline about the truth and knowing what is the truth. And
yeah,
this thing haunts me. And you've heard it before, and your audience has, by William Casey, used to be, I think, the director of the CIA. He says, "We know our job is done when everything the American people believe is a lie." Can you imagine that as number one, as a statement, and number two is your mantra, and number three is the foundation of your global organization? That everything that the American people believe is a lie, and they just nearly succeeded. And the way they do these things, they don't do it within a couple weeks or years. These things are planned decades, 25, 50, 100 years. This is a global organization. It is satanic at its core. And the people that are, and you're looking at like some of these companies and you're saying, why are you celebrating that, ridiculous all month in July, for less than 1% of the entire population? And we won't go there. They don't have a choice. Most of them are Masons. They've all sold their soul. They don't serve America. They don't serve God. They serve the little G, the little God, and they don't have a choice. And so that's why you're seeing like Bud Light, and he does something like that, hugely disastrous. He doesn't care. Doesn't care. You know what I mean? He's told what to do, and they do it. And most of these corporations, they're all funded. That's why when this whole thing happened in 2020, who was crushed? The hardworking middle class, the independent, bookstores, the independent grocery stores, all the independents. Gee, all the big corporations. That's funny. They stayed open, and they were funded through government money, which was our money through our taxes. I mean, it's just like this thing is so ghastly. It is so multi-leveled and multi-tiered. And remember this too: when they do something, they've thought it out. When they decide on doing it, they'll always do it. They were pushing this whole scam of was it global warming, right? And it had a huge backlash. So what did they do? They just changed the narrative. Now they call it climate change. And you can't really argue with climate change. Yeah, you're darn right. I got up this morning. It was really cold. The climate had changed from yesterday afternoon when it was warm.
right.
I mean, do you know what I mean? I mean, it's just, but it's all bunk. It's all bunk science. It's all bullshit. I mean, they're literally saying that our breath is polluting the world. Are you out of your freaking mind? Carbon dioxide feeds the plants. We are actually 30% less carbon dioxide globally right now than we need to be at the levels that we need to be, which means our oxygen levels are less than they need to be. And you've seen what happens when you have really well oxygenated blood. You're more alert, you're clear, your system, you fight diseases, all of that. They all know that stuff. These guys are just lunatics, freaks, the lowest. I call them parasites. Please don't ever, ever, ever use the word elite. There is nothing elite about these parasites. They're just parasites. They're not billionaires. They've stolen money. They've cheated. They've killed. They've murdered. Anyway, I'll stop.
You're awesome. So so just for a thought expanding exercise, when I saw that CIA thing,
yeah,
it motivated me, right? It upset me. It affected me emotionally, which is what fifth generation warfare is. If you were to read the book General Flynn did or study it at all. And there was a period of time after that specific incident where I was grateful it happened because so many people got upset.
Yeah.
And so many people decided to redirect their dollar bills. And so many people decided to stand up, go to a school board meeting, whatever it might have been.
Yes. Yeah.
And then I watched Donald Trump and Kid Rock and Dana White of the UFC all turn around and put Bud Light back where it belonged. And some people got upset at that. And I realized that God's got his hand all over these things. And when I said that someone turned the temperature up real high, real fast,
Yeah.
so that it would motivate us to do something, I believe that that's what happened with Bud Light specifically, and many, many other
You're
examples.
right, though. No, you're right. And there's, and you know, that's a whole nother topic that you guys probably talk about, whether it's the white hats, the military that's been in control. We did just see the most smoothest transition. I mean, I was waiting for earthquakes in California, quite frankly, you know, with weather weapons and stuff. And it's like election came, you know, Trump did win all 50 states. A lot of that will come out. Bottom line, doesn't matter. He won this demonic, occult, worst. I mean, the Democratic Party doesn't exist anymore, just for those that know. It isn't 50%. It's not 45%. We're not a divided nation. It doesn't exist anymore. Maybe it's holding on by 7 to 8% of people that are just frankly comatose, brain dead, or stupid. But they're not a threat. But the point is was that the smoothest thing ever? I mean, it's just like, oh my gosh, and like the last week, it's just been like so calm and relaxing, at least in my globe and my world. And praise God for that, right? I mean, it's the most glorious time to be alive right now. And thank you for that. But you're right. You're right. I'm saying that to say that there are a lot of things that are going where they did push things. And all they did is all this stuff has been around for 50 years. There's nothing new. This is what's been going on behind the scenes. They just brought what the devil hates the most is light into darkness, you know, and they brought it to light, you know, and some of these board meetings, you know what I mean? Like you have these fathers that are just about 2 seconds away from going up there and snapping necks, you know what I mean? Presenting to these brain dead, paid to play, often under the threat of death, you know, at a school board saying, yeah, this book with the pornography in it for 5-year-olds, could we get this? And they're reading it and they're like saying, please don't read that. And it's like, but you're reading it to kids. You know what I mean? I mean, wow. And you're right. It's just like, it did come up to that level and it was what was needed, you know, for those that weren't awake. And it takes a long time, some snap out of it, but I mean, it's just like, it's tough, you know what I mean? Because it's on every level. Coming back to what I said, we know our job is done when everything the American people believe is a lie. Medicine, a lie. Education, a lie. The government, mostly fraud and the largest money laundering industry in the world. That's what the government is. NASA, a lie. You know, and you could go on and on and on. Science, most of it, a lie. You know, evolution, completely a lie. And complete bunk science and make-believe fantasy land. A lie, a lie, a lie, a lie, a lie. And that came clear to me one day when I was just driving, you know, kind of in Carlsbad area in Southern California. And it's just every place I looked at like a grocery store. And then I thought about GMO food and that food isn't food anymore, you know. And I was trying to quote that psychopath that served under Nixon. Can't think of his name. But he goes, what we want, our goal is that people will need to eat 30 to 20 to 30 salads to have the same value of one thing of lettuce. You know what I mean? So like the grocery stores, the current food is mostly fabricated. It's not even food anymore. It's just chemicals. You know what I mean? You go, and I don't go to them. Like you go to a normal grocery store, and it's funny too because hardly anyone's in them. It's organics that are winning the days, and even that's been compromised. But it's like you go down an entire aisle, and it's all the soft drinks and all that stuff with the aspartame, which is rat poison. You know what I mean? Like it just like it's just terrible. And then I look over there and I looked at like a little medical center and I thought, you know, the whole scam of medicine and that it's not designed to heal you, but to keep you sick and to make you even sicker. To a school and the education. And it's like everywhere I looked and I was just like, God, a lie, a lie, a lie, a lie. And you get to that level when you do, if you will, deep research, you know what I mean? Kind of like what you're doing. And I haven't, you know, I've been off it for a while, but I'm just saying, anyway.
I think we just became best friends. I would love for you to tell us more about when the movie's coming out and how that project's going.
Yeah, I'm really excited. It's interesting. You know, I've always been influenced by films, and I think most of us have been. And
I'm a very visual learner.
Yeah,
right? I could read your book, and I might have to do it 3 times to retain it all. But when I watch, it's just the way I learn. When I watch a video, I could tell you a year from now exactly. You know, I could quote it. So I love the movie aspect.
Yeah, and it's always been for me. It's always been about the movie. It's interesting too because I was involved in the industry when I was younger, kind of 18. Actually, from 16 on, did theater and stuff. Really enjoyed that behind the scenes on the stage. Learned the craft, if you will, and then got into script writing when I was 18 years old, and you know started a beginning class, and intermediate, and advanced class, and then started working with professional script writers and was doing that literally for decades. And so ironically, when I sat down to write book one, Britfield and Lost Crown, I wasn't thinking, hey, I've got decades worth of really writing skill. You know what I mean? Because what you learn in script writing is you learn the 3-act structure, you learn economy of words, you start on the action, you end on the action. Your descriptions are never more than, if you will, 3 to 4 lines. This is a movie script. You never waste words, you never waste dialogue, you never waste a page. And so if you have a 90-minute movie, you're going to have right around 90-page script, give or take. And there's a bit of freedom to that. And so I learned all of that. And so I'm saying this to say that from day one, it was always been about the movie for me. And 90% of the people that have read Britfield and Lost Crown say it reads like a movie. They're like, we feel like we're in it. And so I've been waiting so long to get to this point now, as of today, as of this week, as of this month, as we're shifting into our final, our pre-production stage. We've got the finished script. We've got a great business plan, and we're building our team. And so we're hoping to be filming, if not in spring of summer next year in England. I'm hoping to at least film most of the movie in England. You don't have to. I get that. But with us, everything is authentic. And I think for many reasons, on many levels, most of the actors are all obviously going to be British, especially for book one. And it's not to say that Americans can't do great British accents, et cetera, et cetera. Again, we want the British actors. We want to film it in England. We won't be filming at Windsor Castle, but we might get some great exterior shots. But I think it's the benefit of the movie. It's a benefit to the country because when the movie comes out, you know what I mean, it's going to be very, very popular, and tourism, in my opinion, is going to even increase more so than before. And I think what's so great about these books is these are real places that kids can visit. You know what I mean? And I've already gotten that back from parents and even some homeschool parents that have taken because of the Britfield and Lost Crown series, they've taken their kids to England, to France, to Italy, and they've actually visited these places, and we brought them to life, if you will. There was even one 13-year-old homeschool girl, Eva, and they just got back. This is last year from Italy. From France, and they went all the way down to the Loire River Valley to the famous castle Chambord. And if you've seen that big French castle, and the top of the roof almost looks like a city. And they visited because that's in book 2. And she's like, this is the room that they were in and stuff. And so it's so cool to sort of bring that excitement to life and stuff. So everything will be full throttle for me over the next 6 months regarding the movie. It'll be about 80% of my focus and my time. A lot of things we're waiting for us. You talked about the God calling and the timing of it. Yeah. I mean, it took me 10 years to launch it, you know what I mean? Back in 2019. And then it has been a hard 6 years to get to where we are right now. But again, anything of value takes time, but the timing is perfect and you can feel it. And I think that Britfield's going to be part of that change that everyone's hoping for and looking for to set a new standard in literature and in films and movie. We got 2 television programs in development also. Well,
and the major globalist entities, the Netflixes and the Disneys and they're destroying themselves.
They are. Yep. Absolutely.
It's just like this platform. The mainstream media is destroying itself.
Yeah.
Yes, there's thousands of podcasts out here, and they're all growing. They're all growing tremendously. I think what you're doing is happening at the exact right moment in time, and I'm glad there's people out there working as hard as you are to do it. Because F Disney.
Oh no, absolutely.
F Netflix.
Yeah. Oh, I agreed completely. Yeah, and who is one of the founders of Netflix, and it goes on. Again, it's a rabbit hole. It's like, you just start to investigate it. None of this stuff just happened overnight, and billions of dollars has been put into it. Amazon's success, I mean, billions of dollars have been put into it. Free money, if you will, and putting everyone else out of business, et cetera, et cetera. But you're right. And I mean, yeah, I've got a big problem with Netflix. I loved the idea of it at the beginning before they went off the reservation, you know what I mean? And the model, you know what I mean? And how they were kind of the Mavericks, you know what I mean? Like, what do you mean you guys are making your own series? It's when they did House of Cards, which is really based on a British series. Watch the British version. The guy's even more evil, but he's an excellent actor. He's like works, one step down from the prime minister. And it's just like, oh my gosh. But they're like, you can't do that. You rent movies, and you're not a studio. And it's like, well, why not? You know what I mean? And it's like, wait a second, you can't just like film 2 years back to back and then release it all at the same time. Why not? And I loved that idea of it. You know what I mean? But there was obviously something much more diabolical. And it's hard to watch, frankly, in my opinion, anything that they do. If I see the little N on it, I know it's crap, frankly. And they're way toxic. They're way overtaken. Their agenda is slithered through all of it, and it's unfortunate, because they have a great model, if you will. But that should be encouraging for others out there that want to form a company. Why not do it? Get together like-minded people and stuff. And we're seeing that. We're seeing that in the conservative market. We're seeing it in the faith-based market. Faith-based films are now becoming better and watchable and becoming successful, So Jesus Revolution, I think, was done for 15 million. It did 50, 60 million at the box office. Go figure. I can only imagine. I think that was around 18 to 20 million. Did 83 million at the box office. Go figure. So, a lot of things are happening, and people are taking, you don't need, that's what I'm saying. You don't need Hollywood's permission to go out and do something, write a great story. Get great actors. You don't need A-list actors. You don't need known actors. There's great actors out there hungry for great roles. Put together your own little short. Start with a short. Start with a documentary. Start with a movie. You don't need millions and millions of dollars of budgets. Great films are all about the story, not the special effects and not all the flashover substance. You could have a group of college buddies that are meeting 20 years later during the fall up in Maine on the coast at some little cabin. And you just have this incredible dialogue and interaction. That's a great film. That's a great story. If you build great content, they'll come. Trust me. Yeah.
It's funny because let me go in a different direction. Back in the day, there used to be Christian artists, creative artists, and they were always snuffed out, if I remember. Like there was a rap group called DC Talk back in the early 90s, and they were Christian, and I loved them. My uncle put me onto them. He was a youth pastor, and they never made it anywhere because nobody would fund them and nobody would air them. Nobody would play them. And these were super talented young men. Right? They ended up having a career in the Christian community, if I understand correctly.
Sure.
But they never made it anywhere because they weren't the mainstream media's narrative. Yeah. Disney seems to be no longer putting out, I would say 99%. There's nothing creative. They're just trying to rewrite history.
Yeah.
Snow White. It's literally Snow White, and it's just like you're putting it in our faces that you're trying to rewrite history.
Yep.
How about write something creative and new? Yeah. Nobody on the conservative or Christian side is the racist Nazi that you make everyone out to be. Loving, caring, understanding, accepting,
sure,
inclusive. We just don't want our children indoctrinated with your satanic BS, right? There's a big difference. And all they seem to be doing at this point is attempting to rewrite all the things that we grew up knowing. It's really weird.
It's the beginning of the end of that also. A lot of things are happening in Hollywood. But keep this in mind too. Hollywood isn't filmmaking. The craftsmanship of filmmaking is extraordinary. We all love great films. Even though Hollywood is toxic, and it was designed to be toxic, and it was designed to be the boiling frog in the water. The 50s came out and they introduced this, in the 60s, and they got rid of the Hayes laws. And then the 70s, dear goodness gracious, most of those films are sick. Sorry, it's crap. And then the nudity. Oh, really? That's needed? Oh, well, it's artistic. No, it's not artistic. It's pornography. And this is the thing that you have to keep in mind too. The family friendly market is the largest market globally, about 80 to 85%. That is the film market. For every movie that you take from an R to a PG-13, you make more money. For every PG-13 you go into a PG, you make more money. For every profanity word you take out of your film, you make more money. For every nudity scene you remove from a film, you make more money. Hollywood knows that. Hollywood wasn't created for that. It was to push the envelope, and they've destroyed themselves. They're basically bankrupt. They've been bankrupt for years. That's why you're seeing a lot of the mergers and the inside trading and the banker loans. You can't make films for hundreds of millions of dollars and have them tank at the box office and continue on. It doesn't work that way. Films need to make the budget of a movie. You need to do 4 to 5 times that budget. So if you have $100 million movie, you need to make about $400 to $500 million globally. So when you see a film out there and say, oh, it's done for 100 million, it did about 170 million. No, it tanked, and it tanked bad, and it's not going to make the money back. And they lost tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. Practically everything Hollywood is putting out right now is just going straight down and diving. And this recent, anyway, good.
Well, you mentioned House of Cards. I'm not going to bring up the clip because it's too long and we're running out of time here. But did you see the quote unquote white hats used that Kevin Spacey and that character in an interview with Tucker Carlson?
Gosh, no, I didn't. And I wasn't a fan of the show after the first or second season when they got really weird. And then again, that was prior to knowing anything about the lead actor. But and my only acknowledgement of it was just the idea of a company doing something that was outside of that. I call it getting beyond the brand. You know what I mean? It's like Nike with the Just Do It. That's getting beyond the brand and that's creating a philosophy. You know what I mean? So, but no, I didn't see that clip. No.
You're not going to get the full context because it's a 7-minute clip. I'm not going to play all 7 minutes. I'm going to play the last minute and 30 seconds just to give you an idea. So, just so you're aware, to preempt this before we get out of here, I believe that the quote unquote good guys, took this character from a very destructive Netflix, and they used him and Tucker Carlson to explain to us that what we're watching right now is a melded art and reality.
Yeah, we're seeing that.
So check this out real quick. I think you'll like it.
Influence is felt every time every customer opens the app. I'd say that's pretty powerful.
Oh, that's true. When are you getting back to work, by the way?
Oh, I've been back at work from the moment we started talking, Tucker.
So does that mean this is like an episode or is it real?
Well, it's probably a little of both. I mean, Tucker, what's true, what's false? What's life, what's art? What's real, what's performance? I love it when these things intersect because then it gets interesting.
What role do you see yourself playing going forward?
I will play whatever role the public wants me to play. And what about you, Tucker? What role do you want to play? I mean, if I run, I'm going to need a vice president.
I'll sleep on it. I mean, people have already gotten out of the race. People have dropped out already. What do you think of those?
Well, it's a little bit like jumping in the jacuzzi with a boner. You know it ain't going to last forever. So I wasn't surprised when Mike, a little too pensive, jumped out right away.
I wasn't either. But what about the candidates who are still in?
Well, I like Vivek, Drain the Ramaswamy, and Nikki Haley is tough. She's no doubt learned a thing or two by watching me. But I think in the end, we need someone in the White House who's not afraid like me, not afraid to push our country or a journalist in the right direction if it comes to that.
I sure appreciate your coming on. It was great to see you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Tucker.
That was presented when Tucker Carlson first left Fox and started his channel. That was maybe 3 months in or so, if I remember correctly. And that was presented as a real interview on his channel.
Wow.
And it was with a character that Kevin Spacey played on House of Cards, which made me go back and look at House of Cards. Veep did the same thing. They're literally using pop culture against pop culture to let us know that they've turned the pot of water up really fast.
We've seen that, and you hit that right on the mark. Like things were accelerated, to say the least, to get things pushed, if you will, to get millions of others woken up, or at least paying attention, or snapped out of their trance. And we've been in a trance. But again, too, coming back to what William Macy said, that we know our job is done when everything the American people believe is a lie. This has been done over decades, if not 50, 100 years. They've spent trillions of dollars to build their Matrix, to build this Truman Show. You know what I mean? And they own 96%. Six companies own 96% of all media. And you know that, and your audience knows that. But think about that. I mean, they control all of it. The internet, television programs, the studios, films, magazines. I've said this before, but I used to live in Wellesley, Massachusetts, and I'll never forget. They have like little Wellesley, Massachusetts. I think it was like a newspaper, of a population of 15,000 or something, and I'll never forget when like Hearst or one of the big corporations bought it out because everything was changing. I used to advertise in it and stuff like that. Great little paper, local news and stuff. And I'm like, the frick does a company like that want to buy some little nickel and dime newspaper from a small little town? And that was, again, the idea of controlling all of it. You know what I mean? And that's what they've done. And so everywhere you look, everything you read, everything you do, it's hard. You know what I mean? It's like, it is difficult. It's like, where do you get the truth? Who do you know how to trust? And it takes time. It takes time to find good shows like you, where it's like, you know, you guys don't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers, but we have quite a few of them, and we can help guide you in the right direction. And we do our research, and I've spent hundreds, if not thousands of hours reading the right books, doing research, deep dives, listening to great shows like yours, you know, and others that we talked about. Hagman Report, that's what I grew up on. Mel K's gone from nobody and unknown to, you know, way up there, but she does the research. She deserves it. The Common Sense Show with Dave Hodges, you know, he's been in the game for over 20 years, and so on. SGT Report with Sean.
Love that dude.
Yeah, isn't he great? I finally got on his show about 2 months ago. I was like, yes,
Wow.
you know?
Dude, tell him to call me. I've been wanting to interview that guy forever. He was one of the first ones that red pilled me.
Yeah. He was one. I remember listening to him maybe 7-8 years ago, and I'll never forget. He was one of the first people that got knocked off YouTube, and he had something like 800,000 plus followers. You know what I mean? Or not followers, subscribers. You know, I mean that was huge. You know, you go on that show, and it's like, and just like that, boom, turned off. You know, along with so many others. I was even on what's his name? David Icke's son has a show out of England, and it was kind of cool. So I was on his show. Awesome. That was full circle. You know, I learned a lot from Mike. You know, I don't agree with everything, but damn it, that guy's been at the forefront, and he was the first one, in my opinion, that was calling out the whole pandemic for exactly what it was before anyone was. And anyway, so.
Yeah, I'm jealous you got to talk to SGT. I would love to link up with that dude at some point in time.
Yeah.
We have a few minutes left here. I want to give you as much time as you want to promote, let people know where they can find the book, when the movie might be coming, whatever it is you want to talk about.
Yeah, it'd be great. Well, you know, Britfield's, the series is just great. We've got all 3 books. The 4th is coming out, and the best place to purchase it is on our website. I mean, you can get it on Amazon, bookstores, other places, but if you buy it through the website, you'll get signed copies. And I'm not going to be signing books much longer because I'm just getting really, really busy. In fact, we just got our shipment of books of book 4 as we were doing our interview. Someone walked in the room and
good, you got it.
I'm like, it's here. So this is book 4, Britfield and the Eastern Empire. So yes, if you pre-order this, you're going to be getting that book. So I'm really excited. But they're great gifts. They're great holiday gifts. They're great for kids. They're great for adults. It's great for grandparents to buy for their grandkids and stuff. And so yeah, we appreciate that. We appreciate the support. We've actually kicked off our second capital raise for Britfield. So if you are interested in being part of this family and part of this movement, you can contact us through the website. So I encourage you to do that. We're very excited with where we're moving. We start our global tour, 18-month global tour in England next year, Britain in March. And so I'll be doing a worldwide global tour. This will be in conjunction with launching book 4 and the 4 books, but also the movie. And we'll actually have the largest, in my opinion, the largest marketing campaign for the first Britfield movie in cinematic history. And we do believe with the movie that we'll break box office records. Because again, great story, great content. Exactly. There's an 85% worldwide gap for edifying, quality, family-friendly content. 85% gap. You cannot produce enough good, high-quality content. So you asked me about my competition for other authors. I have none. You know what I mean? Because when people are done with Britfield and Lost Crown, they need to read something else that's good with good quality. It's like, get it out there, write it, you know? So yeah, start and begin.
It's amazing how parallel some of the ideas you and I have. When Twitter opened back up, I saw a gap where tons and tons, millions of people didn't see all the things that we did when we went to other social media platforms because we were removed from that one. And so I went back and I wrote my own personal stuff and I represented everything that we had been through off to the side on whatever it might have been, Parler or Gab or Truth Social or whatever. And I represented it again with my own, writing on top of it, and it blew up, which is why I'm here. So I agree with that sentiment. Can you do me a favor? Can you I'm going to have one of the mods take this down so that I can not only link it to all of the stuff that I have you on, but somebody could also put it in the chat. What is that website?
Oh yeah, it's www.britfield.com. So BRITFIELD.com. Britfield.com. It's a great website. It's an award-winning website. It's got over 400 pictures of England. So all the locations that book one take place in are presented in a certain sort of methodical way, interactive maps. It was designed actually to be to use to complement the book. We have a 83-page study guide based on academic standards, so you can teach Britfield Lost Crown in the schoolroom or at homeschool. We're already in thousands of schools across the nation. We're being taught in hundreds of schools across the nation, which is pretty cool. And our goal is to be in, there's 120,000 elementary middle schools in the United States. Our goal is to be in at least 90% of them within the next 8 to 10 years. So
awesome. Are you? Somebody actually asked specifically earlier. Are you on X?
We are, yeah. So,
what's your handle on X?
That's a good question. Hold on 1 second.
That's okay. While you're pulling that up, let me do, because I gotta go burn trash and make electricity. Unfortunately, all night long. Braves Piano over here on pill.net gifted a can, said excellent topic today. Thank you very much, Braves Piano. Absolutely love you. And there was a few over here on Rumble, I believe.
We're at Britfield World.
At Britfield
World.
Okay, awesome. Fitzcan became a monthly supporter. Thank you very, very much, Fitzcan. Those red castles are what I believe are going to make sure that here shortly I won't have to go burn trash for a living overnight. Mike H50 with a $5 Rumble rant. Thank you very, very much. All right. It's been an absolute honor, Chad. I got to be honest. This went about 150 times better than I anticipated. I'm on zero sleep, and I was a little nervous for the interview. But man, you are one heck of a dude. So thank you very, very much. It's been awesome.
Thank you. No, it was an honor too, and it was a thrill. And Natalie DeMarco, she's part of my team. I think she knows some of you guys and loves your show. And the others, cool. The others that were on yesterday. Yeah. And so she was like prepping me and stuff, and so it's really cool. So shout out to her too. So,
well, that's really cool. Tell her I said hi. Tomorrow, for you guys that are fans of this show, I will be doing a simul stream with the Truth Stream guys. So it'll actually be on all of their platforms. I'm going to simul stream it to my Rumble and my Twitter. So I'm sorry for the other platforms. Come join either on Truth Stream's platforms or on one of those two. I can't do any more than two. So I'm going to go to the two largest ones for tomorrow because it's not actually my show. I'm a guest on their show. But they asked if I wanted to simul stream it. So I'm going to do that for you guys. So, all right. I am off to work. Chad, It has been a pleasure. Please don't be a stranger. If you have anything else you want to talk about, this went awesome. I'm grateful.
Thank you. Yeah, as the film progresses, that'll be fun to come back in and really dig deep on that. And there's going to be a lot of on-site location stuff, and we're going to have a lot of fun with the movie. So, to me, the behind the scenes, this is so much fun. So we'll get into it.
I will absolutely be taking the family to see this movie, and our bookworm is going to be getting all 3, if not 4 of the books if they're available. So
they are too. Yeah. Real quick. Like, even though we have the pre-order for book 4 and we're launching it in August, anyone that buys it through the website now, as of today, we'll get it. I'm going to be signing hundreds of books over the next 2 days now because our shipment literally just came. We've been waiting 6 months. It was 6 weeks delayed. So, but anyway, yeah.
All right. One last time, guys. I'm going to ask to hopefully get this one up there on the leaderboard with all the last 2 or 3 months that you guys have been doing it. If you could hit the positive affirmation button on whatever platform it is that you're on. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to see Chad back, hit that thumbs up. Get us up there on the leaderboard, get more eyes on so he can sell more books and we can keep getting more people in these conversations.
Amen.
Much love, Chad. Thank you very much.
Right. God bless, my friend. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.